You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
ECU, Pirate Nation, Purple and Gold family, stand to your feet, put your crossbones up, and lean side to side, yeah, and lean side to side, yeah, and lean side to side. Come on, yeah. Welcome to the island, man. It's crazy in here. A whole sea of purple and gold waving in.
Welcome in to the Pirate Football Playback, presented by L&K Custom Homes. Kevin Walker, licensed general contractor. Call him at 336-688-8461. Let's bring in the fellas first, starting all the way from LaGrange. Kyle from LaGrange Barber. What's up, dude?
Oh, not much, man. Just still trying to find some offense.
No doubt. Bubba Rosenbaum in China Grove, how are you?
Doing okay. I mean, sun came up this morning, but as far as Pirate football is concerned, let's hope better days are ahead, because Saturday afternoon, it was a beautiful day, but in terms of Pirate football, it was left a ton to be desired. Defense played pretty well for the most part, but right when you think, you can't really fall much further offensively, we managed to.
Matt Simmons, let's bring him from the great state of Connecticut. How are you?
What's up, guys? I'm doing okay. I just wanted to start off the show by want to congratulate Charlotte. I want to congratulate Biff Poggi. Since that man was hired, in 3 months, he was able to turn over that roster and put a defense on the field better than anything we've had in probably the last 15 years at East Carolina. So just want to credit Biff Poggi, and Charlotte for beating East Carolina yesterday.
Well, I think Pirates lose 10-7, as you guys know, and I think after you have a game like yesterday, it is it's going to be a rivalry, and we've just got to step it up. I know there's a lot to talk about. We have people. By the way, if you want to give us a call, you can 252-290-0375. 252-290-0375 is the number. If you want to talk tonight, talk Pirate football, give us a call here on the Pirate Football Playback. And guys, I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, we're going to break down the game, but one of the things I was finally happy to hear is in the press conference, Houston taking responsibility for that. Was the first time I've ever heard him do that. What did you guys think about that?
I think he's at a point where he has to.
Yeah, I'm just I was wondering when it would happen.
He's got a huge ego, and at some point, you got to put your ego aside and take responsibility. And he was asked about changing offensive play calling, and he said he's not going to point fingers, but he said it was his responsibility. And well, no shit. I mean, you're the head coach, so of course the buck stops with you. I'm glad he said it, but I think he had to. He just lost to Charlotte. He just lost to 1-5 Charlotte. We were 9.5-point favorites when the spread opened. We didn't even score 9 points. Right. The worst offense in East Carolina football history, and that's not exaggeration or satire or for entertainment purposes. It's the truth. The worst offense in at least the modern history of East Carolina football, and one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my life. He's got to take responsibility. I mean, is he going to put it on Donnie? Well, he hired Donnie. Is he going to put it on the O-line coach? He hired the O-line coach. Is he going to put it on the players? Those are his players. He recruited them. So at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. So, yeah, he better take responsibility.
What did you guys, Bubba, Matt, what did you think about that? I was finally surprised. I thought it should have been a few games ago, but I was surprised to hear him actually. It's the right thing to do. I'm not complaining that he did it. I'm saying I was shocked that he actually said it.
I'm kind of shocked too, because I've been waiting for that for a long time. Yeah. And, it seems like every week it's the same broken record. We're going to fix it. we've prepared, we practiced hard. The kids need to do better. They need to make plays. It's the same thing. And at some point, when you're the head coach, and I'm not saying Mike Houston doesn't do this behind closed doors, maybe he does, but at some point when you stand on that podium in front of your fans, you have to take responsibility. Hey, this is on me. I'm the head coach. I'm the CEO of this program. The buck stops with me, and you have to take responsibility. And right now, it's just not good enough. It's, to be in this situation when you're a fifth-year head coach, to be in a spot where you're losing at home to Charlotte.
Homecoming.
Charlotte. We're talking about Charlotte. This is a disaster. Mm-hmm. It's embarrassing. I'm actually embarrassed for the program. But I'll tell you this, guys, and then I'll let Bubba. I know Bubba's waiting to chime in on this, but, it was an inept game plan yesterday, offensively, obviously, but also saw some things up front from the offensive line that really disturbed me. What I saw was a lack of effort from a few guys. I saw a lack of toughness from a few guys. I actually saw one guy, and I don't call people's names out in certain situations like this, but
they want to get paid now, Matt. I'd call them out.
Yeah, well, I'll just say I saw one guy on that line who I didn't think wanted to hit anybody, and if you're a member of that offensive line right now, you got to look yourself in the mirror because you're getting manhandled every week. It's embarrassing.
I was going to ask you and Bubba about that, Matt. Let's go to. We'll come back to that. Bubba, what did you think about Mike Houston saying taking responsibility for the first time?
I wasn't surprised. I really felt, to a certain extent, that yesterday's game was a bit of a crossroads for the program. Yep. In terms of that was one that we absolutely had to have, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And you look at it. If we hadn't, I know we'll dive more into the details of the game as the show goes on, but if they don't muff that punt there with about 13 minutes to go in the game, we quite possibly get shut out. And you talk about the offensive line, Matt. We get out rushed 184-39, and that's embarrassing.
And it starts with the offensive line. You're right.
And Charlotte has a heck of a defensive line and a very respectable defense. I'm not saying that, but that's just inexcusable. It's so pathetic. And give Biff Poggi and his staff credit. They utilized Jalen Jones terrifically. They had an excellent game plan as far as running option. I think he had 26 or 27 rushing attempts for about 127 yards. And it certainly was not a thing of beauty at times. They put it on the ground 3 or 4 times. There were a couple where Jalen should have kept it, and he pitched it. And fortunately for them, they were able to recover. But and one time it did benefit the Pirates, even though they did not recover the fumble. It allowed us to stop them late in the game and give us a chance to tie it, which we were unable to do. But yeah, it was quite the humbling performance yesterday, and just a shame that that the defense's effort. Although there's certainly things to clean up there as well. When you give up 10 points, you expect to be able to win the football game.
Well, one thing I didn't understand is the game plan yesterday. Clearly, we were scared of Charlotte's run defense. So we very few rush attempts. Even though it seems like we had a lot of rush attempts, it's because we had so many short passes. So your game plan is to go with the short passing game. Okay, I get it. And you hope to maybe catch them, because that's what they're susceptible to is big plays in the passing game. So you're hoping to catch them with some yak yards or something over the top every once in a while. So your plan is to throw the ball. So you start the running quarterback. Makes perfect sense to me. I don't get that. That is something that boggles my mind.
And I was going to ask you that very question, guys. I'm glad you brought that up, Kyle. is, did you notice, and I'm not anti-Garcia by any stretch of the imagination, but did you guys notice that when Flynn came in, there was a huge spark as soon as he came in?
Not a huge spark, but
well, I mean, compared to it was absolutely, it felt like nothing.
Yeah,
like, it felt like a little bit of a life of offense is what I'm saying.
What Garcia is comfortable doing is what Charlotte did with their quarterback. And we're too stupid.
And yet we didn't see it a single play.
But that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you guys when they were talking about the speed option, Jalen. I said, that's what we said to do with Mason Garcia. Why aren't we doing that?
I said it a month ago.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's a good question. Lack of creativity. And look, and here's the worst part about yesterday to me is they won that game. Yes, part of it was talent with their defensive line, but also part of it was game plan. Their game plan, while they didn't score very many points, their game plan on offense was very effective because what they did was utilize their quarterback and his strengths to dominate the clock. They held the ball for 40-some minutes. We held it for like 18, 19 minutes. I mean, you can't win a game like that. It's amazing we only lost by 3. That's how bad their offense is, and our defense is pretty good. That was a pathetic performance yesterday. That really offensively is – Bubba, Matt, have y'all seen a worse performance offensively? I know, Matt, you were you Syracuse game maybe 97. I don't.
NC State 2018 because that year we were that game. A lot of people probably forget that it was even played just because of the circumstances. Scotty Moe had already been fired.
Yeah.
David Blackwell, had to take over as interim coach, and it was a lame duck situation. But
and we were playing a pretty good NC State team. We weren't playing a 1-5 Charlotte team.
Right. And you talk about Charlotte's game plan, and they knew we were stout between the tackles, and that we have a very good run defense. So they knew if they were going to run the football, then they needed to start in Jalen Jones at quarterback as opposed to Trexler Ivy, and attack the perimeter, and they did so successfully, obviously, and they were also very effective utilizing their tight ends and play action passes. He did commit a stupid penalty or two, personal fouls, and as a team they had, I want to say, 9 penalties for 90 yards.
Correct.
So they're 9 penalties for 90 yards, and then the muff punt. Those two things, in addition to another thing or two, largely kept us in the game, where we had a chance to tie it in the final 30 or 40 seconds, despite being outgained by a little over 200 yards.
Another thing, you talk about the last few seconds of the game, Bubba, and I'll ask all y'all this. We talked about it last night, Bubba. You look at last year against NC State, for example, where we had an experienced, fifth-year quarterback in a situation against NC State.
Keaton Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell, where we could play for the touchdown, and instead we played for the field goal. Well, yesterday we don't have offense worth a damn. We can barely move the ball. And in the situation where look, Charlotte was pissing down their leg at the end of that game. I was right behind their bench. They were scared to death, nervous. That was a situation we should have been playing for the field goal. And you get it in, I think we were at the 26-yard line, 27-yard line.
We were first and 10 at the Charlotte 29. And I went back and looked at it again last night. I don't know how I managed to stomach it, but I did. I was curious to see exactly how we approached it. So we were had 2 receivers split out to each side, a 2-by-2 set, and Alex got some pressure off the left side, and our left tackle didn't exactly do his job, and that, which was a trend throughout the day. And I know at times in the game we had provided some help with the running back chip in there. For whatever reason, we did not in that situation. And unfortunately, we took a 10-yard loss on a sack there, and Alex had rolled to his right, so I was hoping that he was going to throw the ball
Yeah, he
out
had
of
time
bounds.
to. Yep.
Yeah, I figured, and that's one of those things, easier said than done, especially when you haven't been in that situation a lot. But I was hoping he was going to be able to get the ball out of bounds and avoid that 10-yard loss, because, based on how we had approached it all game and what we were seeing right there, they were not press coverage on the Charlotte corners. At least on one side was at least 6-7 yards off, I want to say, and we had thrown underneath. Keep doing that and make it where it's a much more manageable field goal. I know we had doinked the one off the right upright early in the game from 24 yards, but that was Andrew Conrad's first miss inside of 40 yards this year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
So just
I don't know why we just
I don't
didn't run it
understand
there.
when pass pro had been such an issue this season and specifically yesterday. Why are we throwing 4 verticals and especially not having a running back helping there with the left tackle?
No,
So
and you
to Alex's blind side.
you wanted them to take shots, but not in that situation because we're at home. And to me, you set up the short field goal there. The crowd would have went nuts had we hit the short field goal.
Yep.
Charlotte was already pissing down their legs. We'd have won the game in overtime, I think, just based on Charlotte collapsing and the crowd going crazy. But we didn't give ourselves that opportunity. I don't know, man. So many we are so bad offensively. It's beyond pathetic. It is unexcusable to be this bad. Matt, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's par for the course with this system we have in place and this game plan. The system, this offensive system we have, it just has zero creativity. It's really interesting because last week we came on this show and like Dave mentioned earlier, we highlighted 3 or 4 things that we think could help, right? And we specifically talked about that speed option, which we ran a few times last week.
You think Charlotte was watching our show?
Yeah. And what that does is it gets you out. It gets you out on the perimeter. It gets you away. We can't run the ball up the middle. We can't do it. We're not capable of it. But at least try to get yourself on the perimeter where you can make a play. And then guess what we do? After we showed it 2 or 3 times last week, we don't go to it again. We don't have any passing patterns in the middle of the field. We don't have crossing routes. We can't execute a 4-yard throw. There was one play yesterday, which Bubba actually called it, and it was a really good call on Bubba's part when we got down in the red zone, and Mason Garcia rolls to his right. He's got Jalen Johnson open. Okay, this was probably, I think this was what, 3rd and 4, Bubba?
Yeah.
I believe that's correct. We were third and goal. Maybe it was it 3rd and goal with the 7 or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Because that was when we missed the field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it
would have been a touchdown.
It would have been, but Mason just, he doesn't seem capable of making these throws, and that's the really unfortunate part because even we're at the point where even in the rare instance where we dial up a good play that actually can work, then we don't block it, or in this case, we can't make a 5-yard throw, or we can't catch it. I mean, it is a host of problems.
It's ridiculous, and I don't know how you have a quarterback in your system for 4 years, 3 years, however the hell long it's been, and you have him there, and you don't recognize that he can't do it at this level. When we won't say who, but other people that are close to the program told us before the season in private that he could not do it at this level. He didn't have it between the ears, and I don't know how the staff couldn't figure it out when other people saw it and could. And and I'm not knocking Mason. We're just being honest. And Flynn ain't the answer either, but Flynn gives us the best chance to win. I said last week I thought we've seen Flynn's ceiling, and I do think we've seen Flynn's ceiling, but I don't think we're ever going to see Mason's ceiling because he just will not allow himself to be successful. He's either not been coached up enough, or he just mentally just cannot do it, one or the other. But I don't think I will be surprised if we see Mason at the quarterback position again this year. At this point, I would probably start Flynn and then start playing Raheem Jeter, because you need to see if Raheem can do it. It can't possibly be any worse. I mean, how could we possibly be any worse on offense? How is it possible?
He looked good in Gardner Webb. I mean, it was the last few minutes, but he looked. I thought he was a lot more athletic. I heard he was athletic, but he was a lot taller, bigger than I imagined. So
it really doesn't matter. It can't be any worse. Your fear is you might ruin him with this horrible offense. Quarterbacks can be ruined. Doug Martin, Steve Logan will tell you that. So that would be the only negative to playing him. But besides that, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't play him.
So would you? So right now we're at game 8 coming up, and he has game 10, 11, and 12. I wouldn't worry about red shirts in transfer portal age. And that would be, and with this shit show, the least of my concerns would be worried about a red shirt. He definitely has talent, don't you guys, Bubba and Matt? Don't you think?
Mason, we're talking about
Raheem
Jeter.
I mean, the limited action I saw of him, he looked like a fluid athlete to me. Like, he looks like he runs well. I think we saw like 1 or 2 passing attempts. But I agree. There's nothing to lose at this point. To the point where, guys, I'll even take it a step further. I might try to identify my best athlete on the team, even if it's a defensive player. Maybe you played some quarterback in high school.
Super back.
And I might try to do what Charlotte did yesterday, where I literally just run option with my best athlete. Like, if, for example, Dwayne Harris, right?
Right.
You only get him once in a generation, but if you have a guy that was a high school quarterback,
right,
that's a great athlete, you almost want to roll with that, because at this point you're running out of options fast. And the O-line, again, I'm going to repeat this yesterday. I saw guys on that O-line yesterday that looked like they didn't want to play football. The left tackle looked like he was stuck in mud. His performance on some of those plays yesterday was embarrassing. So these guys need to look themselves in the mirror and really figure it out. If you don't want to play football, let's find somebody who does. And I'd rather lose with guys who actually want to be out there than guys who are just literally stuck in mud and don't want to get physical and don't want to get tough and don't want to block it.
Yeah, but it's still
yesterday.
Mr. Mills, it's still, to me, it all comes back to the head coach, because who recruited those offensive linemen? They didn't come here on their own.
That's right.
So,
and I don't think I think one of the problems with Mike Houston is he really struggles to evaluate offensiat linemen. I don't think he can evaluate offensive linemen.
I don't think he can evaluate offensive talent very good. Period. Or at least develop it, one or the other, or both. It's a bounty of problems, and there's no fixing it this year. There's no fixing it this year. There's no, well, we're going to turn the corner. Look, if the corner ain't been turned now, it ain't going to get turned. You don't go from barely being able to move the ball and to suddenly being able to score 21 to 28 points a game, which is a very average offense. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I really haven't.
Speaking of Dwayne Harris, it was great to see 17 in attendance yesterday, as well as a lot of other Pirate greats, be it several members of the 83 team, Rod Coleman, etc., for homecoming and Hall of Fame weekend. So
I think Mike Houston owes every one of them an apology.
I would have told 17 to go suit up at halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Dwayne Harris, the 83 team, Rod Coleman, I think they all deserve an apology for that performance yesterday.
And what we had 49 yards of offense at 49 yards of offense at halftime. Some guys around me who had played back, and they were teammates of Matt. You know, they were looking at the scoreboard, saw we had 35 yards halfway through the second quarter, and one of them said my name and said, "Hey, do you think we'll have 50 yards at halftime?" I said, "I do, but not by much. I thought we'd probably have 75 to 100 yards. Well, we finished with 49, so
49 yards. It's just unbelievable. It's just
yeah,
unbelievable. 49 yards of offense and a half. It is just unbelievably bad. I mean, this is
I think we had
unexcusable. Unexcusable. It's unexcusable in year one. It's really unexcusable. These are all his players. He recruited all these players. He brought them all here. He put the staff together, and and we're this bad. And it's because we didn't prepare. Now, I have a conspiracy theory that I've said many times, and I'll say it again. I truthfully believe that he didn't think he was going to be here in year 5. He thought last year he was going to win 9 or 10 games, maybe 11, get an SEC or an ACC job, and it didn't happen. So I don't think he prepared for this year as well as he would have had he planned to be here for the long run. He's never been anywhere for a year 5. Furthermore than that, this is the first place he's been for a year 4. You know, I've said it, and I'll keep saying it. He was at Lenore Ryan for 2 years. He was for 3 years. He was at the Citadel for 2 years, and he was at James Madison for 3 years. He's never had a program where he's built from scratch where they were all his players. This is the first time, and we're seeing the product on the field. Good defense, horrible offense.
Horrible. So would you get, is there an offensive coordinator out there right now, even as Shane Montgomery that's on the staff as an analyst, that you guys, because Donnie's definitely won't be back next year. Do you guys see somebody out there that you would bring in?
You mean immediately, or are you talking about for next year?
For 24.
Oh, yeah, I would bring in Kendall Browse if I was going to bring in OC, but I'd make him head coach.
So we've talked about this a lot, and I think what you have to have at East Carolina is you have to have an offensive system that's somewhat unique. When Lincoln Riley was successful here, it was up tempo, it was high octane, it was wide splits. We're going to go fast and we're going to be aggressive. I think we need to find a system almost like, you look at what Coastal did when Chadwell was there, essentially running an option scheme from the pistol with passing concepts off of that. That's a unique offense that's tough for people to prepare for in 1 week, similar to what you see with like a Navy, for example, right? You look at App State, they have a system in place, even though yesterday it didn't look so great, but there's a history there. There's a track record where they run that outside zone stretch. They'll hit you with play action off of that. They have good quarterbacks. I think what I like to do is find a system that I think is going to work with East Carolina, and then identify the coach that can run that system. And I think that's what it's going to take. I think we're going to have to find, because this what we have right now, a power running game is what Mike Houston wants. It's not going to be successful here. We don't get the horses up front. We don't get the offensive linemen. We just don't. So you have to find something that's going to cause some confusion. It's going to look a little different. It's going to bring a unique element to it. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
I'm with you, man. I just don't. We'll be real, as we've been discussing in the text message. We're going to talk about replacing Donnie. I've seen this song and dance at many programs, many programs, where the coach has a horrible season. Now this is going to be record horrible. This is going to be 1-11 in all likelihood. And I've seen it where you go and you make all these changes on staff. You get a new OC, you get a new line coach, you get a new strength coach, and it don't work. Most of the time, very few times in the history of college football has a coach had a 1-11, 2-10 type season, this far into his tenure, and then ends up turning it around. And normally they'll make all those changes, and the following year it'll be another losing season. Because here's the problem. Some people want to say, well, can we afford to fire Mike? And who would we get as head coach? Well, I want to get a better question for you. who in the hell is going to be the offensive coordinator here when Mike Houston's on the hot seat? After this year going 1-11, which is probably going to happen. Let's say we do go 1-11 and we keep him. So he's trying to hire an OC after 1-11 season, and so everybody knows that he's trying to hire that. Essentially, this man's playing for his job, coaching for his job. So you're going to leave a job somewhere where you've got stability and come here for a job that may be a one and done. You leave to become OC. Kind of like David Blackwell when he left Jacksonville State to become DC here under Montgomery. He took a gamble, and it didn't pay off. He got fired after 1 year. So,
but you could have a younger guy that has like a Kendall Browse, somebody that has OC experience.
Kendall Browse ain't coming here unless it's head coach. Kendall Browse is the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, not Arkansas State. So, that's not happening. It's what you're going to have to do. If we keep him, we're going to have to hire a OC from the FCS ranks with some creativity, because there ain't going to be no FBS offensive coordinators that are going to leave a job to come here after a 1-11 season. It's just not going to happen. So
lame duck. It's a lame duck position.
Exactly. So he's going to have to find someone, and that's where honestly, that's where his experience is. So that's probably where he would look anyway. So that's what he's going to have to do, is hire if he survives. And we go 1-11. I'll be shocked if he's still here. But if he is, he needs to hire an OC from wherever he can get him from. If Matt, like you said, if he wants to be a run-based offense, he needs to be creative with it. He needs to hire somebody that runs some kind of creative, like option from the pistol, like you're talking about, or I don't know. Is Chadwell his own OC at Liberty, or does he have an OC?
I'm honestly not sure, but I do know that Liberty improved to 7-0 yesterday with a 45-point performance against Middle Tennessee, running for 401 yards.
Yeah, it was actually Wednesday, but who's counting?
That's right. That's right. That's right. I remember watching it. Thank you for that correction. But yes, the last time out, they improved to 7-0 with 401 rushing yards and over 550 yards of total offense.
Yeah. So if Chadwell, if he has an OC, but would that OC leave Liberty to come here? I mean, Liberty's a very stable job. So I would look at if Houston survives, he's going to have to look at the FCS ranks and find a creative OC. And if he wants to be run first, it needs to be, like Matt said, very creative. I don't know. I don't know. That's going to be a challenge for Mike is to find somebody in this situation if indeed he does survive.
Also of note, the Pirates go to Lynchburg next year to take on the Flames.
Thank you for reminding me of that, Bubba.
Well,
we have a call, guys. Dick from Richmond. So let's go there. Dick, are you there?
Dave, do you have yourself muted? If you do, we can't hear Dick.
No, I don't. That's what I'm trying to. Let's see. Hang on one second, fellas.
While we're figuring that out, guys, I'm just going to say I'll address the elephant in the room in terms of Mike Houston's future. Personally, I'm ready for a change. I did not anticipate saying that prior to the season, but the fact that we came into this season without addressing the quarterback situation, we didn't take a quarterback from the portal because we were too afraid that we might offend Mason. Huge tactical mistake. That is a huge tactical mistake. We didn't, in my opinion, I know the kicking game has been okay this year from a field goal kicking perspective, but I had no confidence that we can kick a game winner. I thought we could have addressed the kicking situation.
Well, we took a kicker from VMI and then really didn't give him much of a shot, and he transferred out of here before the season started.
Exactly. Another tactical error, and
man, he was all Big South, SoCon, wherever the hell the VMI is playing these days.
Yeah, as far as that's concerned, I I wouldn't say that we didn't give him a chance. From my understanding, he made that decision to leave based on where he was on the depth chart.
Yeah, but sometimes kids are gamers, and I'd like to say, like I'll give you an example. I think Kamara Edmonds is a gamer.
He is really good.
What I see out of Kamara Edmonds, every time I see him touch the ball, the only logical explanation I can have why he doesn't touch the ball more is because he doesn't perform well in practice. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but my guess is he's a gamer because he seems to play with a lot of passion. And you just don't play with that kind of passion at practice. That comes out of games. Patrick Pinckney was like that. Patrick Pinckney would have never seen the field if it wasn't for injuries, and then he ended up starting for 2 years. And his best performances were always in big games: Virginia Tech, West Virginia, North Carolina conference championship games. And I think Edmonds is, in most all likelihood, without being at practice, my guess is he's a gamer.
I really like
wonder
this
if
run
my
yesterday.
kicker could have been the same way. Is my point.
Yeah, that run yesterday that you referenced, Dave, that's what he got popped at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
It looked like it's going to be no gain. He breaks that tackle, and as the 49er defender did not wrap up and ends up, it looked like he was not far from it being even more than a 17-yard gain.
Yeah, he was close.
And he was one of 2 guys that had 17 yards yesterday. As we mentioned, the Pirates ran for just 39, just dismal on the ground.
When you see a guy like that with an O-line that's struggling that can make yardage on his own, can you please explain to me, Bubba, Matt, why the hell he's not playing more?
Especially when we had trouble with.
Wish I could.
Especially the running back position when we know that there's potential of injuries. Pop McKay hasn't even played. Then you've had
Gerald Green got injured.
Gerald Green got injured. You have Rajay, who's coming off ACL from last year. I mean, there's all, and you have Marlon Gunn that was banged up. JBM
Bond is out. So,
Bond is out. Like he should be back. Hopefully by this week, we'll see. But he's day to day. But they're trying to make sure he doesn't have a season-ending injury with a hamstring injury, right, guys? A hammy. I haven't heard in the last few days, but that's the last I'd heard was maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. We were talking about that. It was day to day. So if we can ever get him back, I love Marlon Gunn. The running back room we've got, we're in great shape. We just need to work on definitely first and foremost, Matt. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Thought about that earlier this afternoon about the O-line. We've got to go to the transfer portal and put out a lot of bucks and get those guys. A suitcase in the grocery store parking lot is fine with me.
No doubt. And, so we're talking about the running backs here. And, I don't think it's another issue I have with this staff. I don't think we're playing our best running back right now nearly enough. I love Raji. I think he's outstanding in short yardage and goal line. I think he's coming off that ACL and he's lacking the burst we've seen from him in the past. And I think Marlon Gunn's kind of been brushed to the side. I don't understand that. I think he's looked
awesome.
Really effective the last few weeks when he's running in between the tackles. He's running hard. I'm ready to give some other guys a chance there, and it's a lot of things right now you're seeing don't make much sense. And I think the coaching staff right now is just as confused as anybody else. I don't think they have the answers. And I'll just say this again, and not to sound like a broken record, but just think about where Charlotte was at the end of their season last year. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in a new coach. Okay. They turned over their entire roster. They hit the portal hard. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he had 3 months to basically put together a roster.
Yep.
This guy had 3 months to put together a roster. All right. And he comes into Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium and beats our ass. That is humiliating. You cannot let that happen if you're Mike Houston. You can't do it. He's got to take I just can't believe. I cannot believe we're in this situation.
Me and Bubba talked about it, Matt, and we compared it to the A&T game. Well, the A&T game was an all-time low point. Charlotte's right there with it. But the difference between this and the A&T game, to me, while you can say the A&T game's worse because it's FCS, that was the team that had, went undefeated, had won the HBCU national championship, et cetera, et cetera. And also, you knew it was done. You knew that was it for Montgomery. And you had Carolina the following week to make you feel better, and we beat them. There's no feel better for this. This is year 5. Charlotte coming in here and losing to them is embarrassing. Because and another thing, the reason it hurts so much is A&T ain't never going to beat East Carolina and turn that into beating us in recruiting. Where this is a stepping stone for Charlotte. They're in the same conference with us now. They're expanding their stadium, and now they can point and say, "Hey, we just beat those guys. Come play for me, not them." So it was a horrible loss. One of the worst losses in program history. I think this loss has ramifications on the program, and it's bad. It's bad to let that happen yesterday. Was pathetic. It was beyond pathetic, and to me, it's the kind of thing that if you don't follow it up with some good performances, I don't see how you survive it. I mean, and people will cite money, but I can tell you, in the money situation, if people actually break it down and think about it, isn't as dire as people think it is. So we'll see. We'll know by the end of the year if those decisions are going to have to be made. Because 1-11, and this would be, we went 1-11 one at a time. It was under John Thompson, and JT had an FBS win, not an FCS win. He beat Army, and that schedule that year was brutal. Miami, North Carolina,
West Virginia,
Louisville. When Louisville was, Louisville's good again, but the first time around when Louisville was really good. Southern Miss when they were still Southern Miss. It was, and so this is, and people have pointed to Montgomery. Well, Montgomery always won 3 games, and we are as bad now as we were under Montgomery. It's just different. We're bad on offense versus defense, so the scores don't get out of hand as bad, but we are just as bad of a football team. It's just we were horrible on defense under Montgomery. We're horrible on offense under Houston. So the scores are closer, but the performances are just as bad. And really, this schedule's been easy. Marshall and App are last and next to last in the Sun Belt East, by the way. They both lost this weekend. They've lost a couple in a row. App almost lost to Monroe.
Yeah, I think they've had 5 games essentially come down to the final minute or overtime. Yep. The loss in North Carolina yesterday against Old Dominion. Then you referenced the last minute win that they had against ULM, and so in those games they were 1-4. Lost a heartbreaker on a last second field goal to Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, and Marshall has also been struggling ever since they beat Virginia Tech. They've been going backwards. So you look at the teams we played. Rice may be the anomaly. They had one bad performance against UConn, but they're actually not a bad team. They played pretty well before and after our game. So,
Kyle, we have a comment from Facebook from James.
We'll take less money. Let's do
from
that.
Hattiesburg,
baby.
He said bring y'all's ass to the Sun Belt, baby.
I think he was trying to say bring y'all's ass to the Sun Belt, but he said being y'all's ass to the Sun Belt. I guess you are. Maybe that's what he meant, actually. Maybe I'm not sure he meant to say bring y'all's ass to the Sun Belt, Bubba. I think he maybe meant to say being y'all's ass in the Sun Belt, meaning Southern Miss.
He said bring.
No, he said being. Put it back on the screen.
He changed it.
Well, either way, it's applicable because Southern Miss is being us in the Sun Belt. That's exactly James. That's my buddy James. He's a Southern Miss fan, and he's right. Southern Miss is being East Carolina. He said it by accident, but he's correct. Southern Miss is being East Carolina in the Sun Belt because they suck too.
All right, we have. Let's try to get back Dick from Richmond. Let's try that again. Dick, are you there?
Ladies and gentlemen, the phone system does not appear to be working correctly tonight. If you want to try calling in, Bubba, give that number again. Maybe it's something on Dick's end. Maybe we try a different caller.
Yeah, Dick, call back because for some reason I don't know why I've got everything I have everything hooked up. So
252-290-0375. 252-290-0375. If you want to try to call in, we'll see if
Can
we
you hear
get
us,
calls
Dick?
working.
All right, we'll try you back. Try us back in a few minutes, Dick. All right.
So yeah,
one thing I'd love to hear from the people that are, tuning in tonight, getting a lot of comments. I would love to hear people's opinion on, should we make a new move at head coach? I mean, I would love to get a new move, get a feel for what everybody's thinking out there. If it's time, if this has run its course and it's time for a new head coach, or
everybody I've talked to, the only people that are saying otherwise is because of financials, but everybody else is, it's pretty angry, fed up, and this is a bigger problem than I think. I think most people realize. I don't think some people realize how bad. I mean, it is beyond horrible. So yeah, but I'd like to get our listeners' comments.
Well, Chuck Saye chimes in saying, at the end of the day, does Houston come back in 2024? I mean, that depends on, we'll see how the final 5 games play out, but based on what we've seen, especially yesterday, but
if 1-11, no.
But yeah, if we're 1-11, 0-11 against FBS competition, good luck trying to sell season tickets. This year, unfortunately, we sold 900 to 1,000 less season tickets than we did in 2022, and that was coming off an 8-win season and a bowl win. So good luck trying to sell season tickets should it play out that way where we don't win another football game. But Dave, okay, I thought Dave had the caller.
No, we don't have him ready. I was just going to say we owe Coach Houston, unless we find some probable cause like they did at Michigan State, we owe him $4.2 million. Then we have to pay another coach.
Okay, well,
listen, hold on just a second. So everybody's talking about the season tickets. Well, first of all, let's go back to the season tickets. The season ticket model is a bad model to begin with. We need to be doing the naming rights for the stadium. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we need to do to create revenue. So to rely on that, first of all, is a terrible
I think we've
mistake.
tried to, and we just can't get a big enough corporate sponsor to get the naming rights.
No, what I was told is Ron Dowdy.
I've heard he has lifetime naming rights, but
we got to do something.
You can buy somebody out. You give him the money he gave back if we get more money from somebody else. But
yeah,
the buyout. If Houston's here next year, he makes 2.3 million. If we fire him, he makes 1.4 million. So you pay him 1.4 million, and that's if there's no. And I cannot get an answer. I messaged Scott Shook, and he didn't message me back. I'm trying to get an answer from somebody if there's a buyout, if there is an offset clause in Houston's contract. There was an offset clause in Montgomery's contract. There was an offset clause in Ruffin McNeil's contract, and I'm trying to find out if there's an offset clause in Mike Houston contract. If you don't know what an offset clause is, that means if he gets another job somewhere else, whatever he's making offsets what we owe him. Okay, but let's pretend there's not, and we owe him 1.4 million. Well, if we fire him, then that's what we owe him. If we keep him, we pay him 2.3. So there's a $900,000 difference. Well, there's a lot of good head coaches you can get from $1 million to $1.5 million for their initial contract. So you're talking about a difference of a few $100,000 if you bring in somebody else versus keeping him. You're not going to pay a new head coach coming in here $200 what you're paying Mike Houston. Mike Houston is the 3rd highest paid coach in all of the American Conference.
But you want to win, right?
What we're paying. Yeah, but
at the American level,
you know what the base salary is for Tom Herman? $750,000.
Right, at FAU.
You know what Rich Rodriguez is making at Jacksonville State? His entire contract, $800,000. I can keep going. Kendall Briles, the offensive coordinator at Arkansas, would come here in a minute for the opportunity.
He's actually OC at TCU now.
Kendall?
Yes, because
nonetheless, he wants the opportunity to be a head coach. And
I'd forgotten that move, and I looked it up just out of curiosity, and because I wasn't 100% sure myself. And Arkansas, I guess, first-year coordinator, they had to make a change there today.
Yeah, well, Kendall was OC at TCU nonetheless. Nobody's going to hire him to be a head coach because his name is stained. So he would jump at the opportunity. I could keep going for head coaches that we could get for $1 million to $1.5 million. So we can make it work financially. That to me, that has been way overthought. So yeah, you can make that work.
You're 100% right. And there was a great post on Hoist the Colors last night. Carolina's Pirate posted this.
I've copied it.
And we talked about that. And he did a great job kind of breaking this down, and that it's really not – it's almost a non-issue, the situation with Mike Houston and the contract. And you just did a really good job breaking that down. But, I just go back to, for me personally – this system is not going to work at East Carolina. Last year, we had the best talent we've had in many, many years. Okay. And we couldn't come close to winning the conference. We don't get the linemen for this system. And then on top of that, the overall mentality, conservative mentality that we've seen from Mike Houston, taking a knee before halftime, playing for field goals like we saw at NC State. That conservative mentality is not
what you were raised on, Matt.
It ain't what I was raised on, and it's not good for East Carolina.
Logan, you go for it at East Carolina every time. You don't play at East Carolina. You don't coach at East Carolina with a weak heart. You go for it every time.
Yeah, and I just think this is precisely the wrong system for East Carolina. Nothing personal, but I think it's time. It's just my opinion. It doesn't make me right, but I have to be honest, and I think it's time for a change.
So if we let me ask you guys a question. We've gone to 2 straight bowl years, correct? Or it's funny how everybody. I'm just going to say this. I'm not directing to you guys. I'm just going to talk to a minute for Pirate Nation. We talk about how we're a great fan base. We talk about we're the best. We're this, that, but every time we turn around, when there's a loss, you listen. I didn't even listen to the 5th quarter. I usually do.
Dave, it's beyond losing, man. It's beyond losing. This ain't about. Let's go back to the beginning of the season. We all gave our predicted records. I said 6-6 at best, 4-8 at worst. I was prepared for a losing season. Losing seasons I can handle. They don't bother me that bad. Sometimes it's just how it is. Like Ruffins last year. This ain't about a losing season. This is about historically. We are historically. When you look in the record book, we are historically bad on offense in year 5. This ain't about losing a game or having a losing season. This is about being historically bad. We are a complete joke.
So what you want to do? You want to get rid of Houston. He's proven he can win here. He's had proven he can win. He's proven he can win with other people's players. 15 wins in the last 2 years until this year. 15.
You look at the amount of players we have playing professional football of last year's team, we underachieved 1 in 8 games.
So you look at that. And so what I'm just saying is we talk about all the time we're the best fan base. We'll do this. We'll do that. But if you have one bad season, we're going to kick you out.
Question. What would you compare our fan base to?
Normally I would like to think that we have a great fan base.
What people generally
quickly you turn. You quickly turn them.
What do many people think Carolina's fan base is like? Matt answered the question for me since Dave's not going to.
What do
You're
I
think?
think?
Say SEC.
No, what SEC? SEC, exactly.
Right.
Now, what's going to happen at an SEC school if somebody goes 1-11? They're going to get their ass fired. So it ain't about that our fan base. It's because we do care.
If we care, then you give NIL money. We don't give NIL money. I talked to Hank Hinton on Tuesday afternoon, and people are not giving money. And guess what? This is the problem. Nobody's talking about it. It's NIL.
That's
people
not the complete. Well, then why isn't Mike Houston address it? Why isn't Mike Houston saying
he talked about it? He talked about it privately first. I didn't talk about it because there were people that had a private conversation with him, and then in public he's talking about it. But if he talks about it now, then of course everybody's going to say, "Oh, he's just blaming it. He's blaming it." The bottom line is, if our fan base wants a winning product, Matt, we talked about there's 2 things.
Mason Garcia was here before NIL was a thing.
No, let's just hold on a second. Matt and I agree that he talks all about here. He and I have the winning combination. It's transfer portal and NIL. You put two of us together, and that is our solution to our problem right now. But as long as people say, I ain't paying no players money, well, guess what? We're going to be irrelevant.
That's a systemic problem that needs to be addressed. We need to address NIL. But you can't go 1-11 in year 5 and keep your job. And if you think App State and Coastal Carolina and Old Dominion and all these schools at Marshall that have better records than we do, and Charlotte, you think Charlotte, all these schools have got more NIL money than we do. Rice, all these schools have more NIL money than we do. No,
that's the point. They don't. I know that's the point. The point is, you guys always talk about it. We're better than those programs. We're better than those programs. But the problem is we're not giving to them. Right, in the short term, but that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If we have right now, you said it. I'm gonna take your words. A couple years ago, when the NIL happened in July of 2021, you said it best in the transfer portal, and I'm gonna give you credit for it. You talked about it. You said this could cut both one or two ways. It could cut where it helps us or hurts us. NIL, when we don't have it and we have a transfer portal, they're gone, man. They're gone. And the way that we keep these players, the way that we build a program, I'm telling you, is between
you think NIL
the transfer portal and
1-11. Or we're going to be 1-6.
Looking at the Matt Simmons, and we talked about this.
Matt just said he wants a new head coach.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, we can disagree on that. That's fine. I'm just telling you what the problem is. The problem is transfer portal.
And I would also recommend you quit attacking the fan base. They're kind of our listener base, so that's probably something you want to stop.
No, I'm just saying you ask. I'm not attacking the fan base. I am doing exactly what you do. I am simply telling the fan base, if you want to win, you got to get over yourself and give money to NIL.
I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about you saying our fan base wants to fire everybody and we're not.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Well, it's the same way at any school that cares about football.
We do care. I care about it.
What do you think is going to happen? What do you think would happen at Carolina?
Let's fire him. Then what you're going to do, 2026, 27, how many years do you want to wait? Because what's going to happen is when a new coach comes in.
If we make the right hire,
if a new coach comes in, they're going to say, oh, we got to have the new players, Dave. What happened is Mike Houston had these old players and we didn't have enough players. So then we have to just buy off 3-4 more years. And by that point, nobody's going to care about East Carolina football anymore.
So you think we're going to hire a new offensive coordinator and we're going to fix it and have a winning season next year?
If you said it right. If we have the right hire for OC, yes, we could with the defensive use.
He's going to be more limited hiring an OC than we would be hiring a head coach.
Nobody's
going to want to come here in the
But wait a minute. On one point, you guys say that everybody wants to come here. So you
got head coach. It's their program. They're starting new. If you come in as OC under in a lame duck situation,
you don't know it's lame duck though. We could turn it around. You automatically just writing off.
Very rarely does that.
What about Willie Fritz?
Willie Fritz had extenuating circumstances. He won 2 games that year. Willie Fritz had extenuating
2-10.
Willie Fritz had extenuating circumstances the year he went 2-10. They had a hurricane come through New Orleans.
I know what they did.
Were displaced. They were in Birmingham the entire season.
Right. I remember it.
I don't remember us being displaced. So,
but you talk about not making excuses. So I'm just saying.
Well,
that is one example. Give me another one.
We are
That's
right
off
now.
the top of my head.
We're possibly the worst team in FBS football right now.
Thank you.
In year 5, we are possibly the worst team. Listen, I'm going to say this again, guys. Biff Poggi, in 3 months, okay, from the time he was hired, he had a recruiting season of 3 months. He put together a defense that is as good or better than anything we've had at East Carolina in 15 years. He did it in 3 months. Now, his offense sucks, but he was still smart enough to put together a game plan yesterday to beat Mike Houston.
Yep.
Okay.
He outcoached him.
All right. And he built a defense in 3 months. Okay. Without having connections to North Carolina.
And he just got there, right? He just got there. Didn't he? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He just got there.
Yeah,
so
3
you
months.
could turn it around quick with the transfer portal.
Exactly.
And there was no excuse to go into the season without a quarterback.
We did try for the
We tried
transfer portal.
after the fact, after spring
We
ball
tried,
for
and
quarterback, and we told the quarterback that they would be the backup. That's from Igo. That's from Stephen Igo.
No, they said that they could not promise. Mike Houston said that what the people they were going after, the best quality ones, they wanted to be promised the job. And why would you promise anyone, no matter how good they are, if you're a coach, you're going to bring them in, and and he was
Well,
honest.
if they're proven commodities, then what you tell them is your job to lose. It's your job to lose. But they did not evaluate the talent at quarterback they had very well.
And James
So
says that Southern Miss is the worst team.
Well, it's you know what? If you want that title, we'll take number 132, James. You can be 133. So congratulations, you win. No, it's bad. And another thing too. When you look at a situation, and it's clear to me, it's the nose on my face, that the reason we're in this situation is because Houston didn't think he'd be here next year. He did not develop and recruit talent for year 5 because he didn't think he'd be here. And to me, when you do that out of arrogance, I'm sorry, but people want to talk about loyalty. There ain't no loyalty with him. He'd be gone on the first train out of here, the first big offer he got.
Barry Kearney says the sports objective not on his own. He will be fired as a scapegoat because he can't afford to fire the one who's giving him orders. They'll use the old return to spend more time with the family. Talking about Dunny, Kirkpatrick, he won't have a choice. Yep.
Yeah, I don't.
We'll keep Houston for one more year.
I don't think so. Not if we go 1-11.
I think we'll keep him for one more year.
You bet.
Sure. What do you want?
If we go 1-11, $100 bet. You just make it a simple $100.
I'm not going to do 100.
He's gone. If we go 1-11, he's gone. He is gone.
Thank you.
We go 1-11.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
I'll take that bet.
Guys, we have players openly. Here's the other thing you got to think about too. With this portal the way it is, and this type of offense, in addition to having to overhaul a large part of the roster,
who the hell wants to come play in it?
You're going to have players hitting the portal. We have one of our better defensive players right now. His father, all but said, they are about to hit the portal at the end of the year. So this is a bad situation. And I'll tell you, it's not going to get any better this week because UTSA is going to curb stomp ECU. I hate to say it, but
then why don't we forfeit the rest of the year? Let's just forfeit the rest. 5 more games. Let's just say we're definitely going to be running 1-11.
Why don't we call better plays for the rest of the year?
I agree with that.
Coaching perspective, because
I agree with you.
All right.
I've been fussing about that for.
Well, Matt's just stating the fact that he thinks we're going to get curve stomped. Look, they held Florida Atlantic to 10 points. Florida Atlantic just put up around 50 points on South Florida the week before. So, what do you think is going to happen when we go to San Antonio? Do you think magically we're going to wave a magic wand and somehow be able to score points? No, we're probably going to get shut out of San Antonio next weekend.
We shall see.
You going to put a bet on that one? If we're going to beat
UTSA? Could happen. We're good enough defensively that
I just don't go in there and yes, it's a very difficult game because Elliot's asking, why am I taking up for Houston? Well, because I don't want our fan base to continue every time we have a losing season to.
It wasn't our fan base that wanted Ruffin fired. It was a bunch of assholes that have a lot of money and Jeff Compher that wanted Ruffin fired. It wasn't our fan base. The fan base didn't want Ruffin fired, and this is not comparable to Ruffin McNeil or Steve Logan for that matter. It wasn't our fan base that wanted Ruffin fired. It was a bunch of assholes. It was a handful of assholes led by the biggest asshole of all, Jeff Compher, that wanted Ruffin fired.
And guys, just to the listeners right now, guys, feel free to call in. Chuck, Elliot, James, all the names I see here. Guys, call in. We're happy to hear your opinions.
And Elliot says Coach Houston can overrule Donnie. Why doesn't he? And I'm sure at times he has, but I think by and large, my guess would be that Coach Kirkpatrick is calling by and large, he's operating within Coach Houston's boundaries as far as the offensive schematic standpoint.
Let
Offense,
me
offense,
let me let me really let me
philosophy.
simplify what's happened here. This is really simple. Coach Houston was at James Madison. James Madison at the time was the Alabama of the FCS. Anybody could win at James Madison. Okay, Everett Withers won there. He didn't get fired. He left on his own to take a head coach job at the FBS level at Texas State. This is what they did at JMU. At the FCS level. You cannot do that here. We can't. The only reason it worked the last couple of years was because we had Holton Ahlers and because we had Keaton Mitchell. And you had two elite talents that were not. Holton was not appreciated. You talk about somebody that's under an apology.
Agreed.
Good Lord. I mean, I think Holton succeeded despite what we had on offense. So what Houston's trying to do is what he did at JMU when they were at the FCS level. And it ain't going to work here at the FBS level. We got to be more creative on offense. And at this point in the season, there's a lot of people that want Donnie fired now. And, you promote Shane Montgomery to OC. I'm assuming that's who you would promote to OC. I'd fine if you want to do it, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. I don't think it's going to matter because this season is too far gone. It's just we're not at game 3 or 4. We're at game 7. Excuse me, game 8.
And, let me just say, Dave. Dave. I appreciate your opinion on this. I mean, listen, I'm glad somebody out of the 4 of us has a different opinion. Because then I can hear you and Kyle argue at each other, especially. But listen, you have your opinion. You feel very strong about it. Hey, that's okay. That's okay. But I just, from my perspective, I just see there's too many question marks for me at this point in time. And and the other thing I want to say is I want to be very respectful to Donnie Kirkpatrick because
Donnie's a good dude, and he's been here a long time. 2 different,
That's right, Kyle.
Three different coaches.
He is a really good dude. He has done really, really good things at East Carolina throughout, many different coaches. Listen, sometimes things just aren't working out and it's time for a change. This happens in the business world every day. I'm a sales manager at work. Sometimes salespeople need a change of scenery. Sometimes things just don't work out. And I think that's where it's at for Donnie right now. He's had a great career. He's done really great things for ECU, nothing but respect. But right now it's not working. It's just not working. These things happen. It does, I just think the philosophy, it's time for a change.
Well, to me, the Donnie Kirkpatrick thing's not even worth discussing because without a doubt, he's going to be gone at the end of the year. There's that's not even debatable or questionable. So to me, the Donnie Kirkpatrick thing's not even worth discussing. It's a moot point. He's gone whether Houston's here or not.
Right. I think, but that's what I'm saying is I think what's going to happen is you'll see Houston will just tell Donnie, hey, retire. They'll get somebody in here. They're going to give him. I say this, if they have one more year, if you don't see a change next year, then absolutely. But I don't think I don't, because I'm a person, I'm not delusional where I'm trying to defend the guy like everything is great. I am definitely 1-6. I'm angry as hell. I'm pissed off. I'm frustrated like everybody else. But I don't think, but having said that, when you step back and you start thinking about this program and having to wait to win, or can we have an offensive coordinator can come in, somebody come in and to have a different philosophy.
Let me ask you a question, Dave.
Okay.
What if it gets worse as the season goes? We're 1-11. We're 1-6 right now. And then let's say we finish 1-11, and it goes from where we're losing close games, relatively speaking, to we're getting blown out week after week. At what point do you say that's enough? I don't care how much he's owed. I don't care what he's done previously. By the way, this will be 3 losing seasons out of 5 years. So at what point, let's say we get shut out the next 2 weeks. I'm just speaking hypothetically. At what point do you say, all right, that is enough? There is no salvaging this. We need to start over.
I mean, I was angry a few weeks ago to the point of where I was just like you guys, like, hey, I want him out of here. I think, but when you start, you have to really step back and take the anger out of it, take the emotion out of it. Like we said, it's a business deal, and I
I'm
don't
not
see
thinking about it completely from an emotional standpoint. I'm thinking about it from a standpoint if you can't evaluate offensive talent. If you've had a quarterback here, and it's not just a quarterback. Look at our receivers. Our receivers cannot get open downfield. They cannot catch the ball half the time. I don't understand. And I had talked to Bubba about this quite a few times that I didn't think we were. This is why we were winning. People always talked about we haven't played Mason. I said, damn, Mason, why aren't we playing more receivers? Why are we playing the same receivers every down?
I agree with that.
And we weren't getting. And then I also had talked to Bubba about we weren't bringing enough receivers in through high school recruiting. And by the way, go look at I go put out an article about how many high school receivers are no longer on the team that we recruited, and now they're not here because they didn't evaluate the talent worth shit. So that's, to me, I am looking at it from big picture. It's not just emotion. I am very concerned about this staff's ability to evaluate offensive talent at this level. I don't think they're very good at it.
Well, the offensive line is a disaster.
That's number one.
You see, let's just take a look at teams that have less resources than we do in the area. I think App, ODU. I know Liberty has a ton of money.
Yeah,
but in some ways, think about it like this though. They're not in as good a conference as we are. They haven't had the TV exposure that we have. Sure. So in some ways, it makes sense. How about JMU? These guys came up from FCS, 3 years ago?
And they just keep rolling.
JMU would give us a woodshed beating.
Yep.
And they did the last time we played them. So I see teams doing more with less. There's no way our offensive line should be this bad. Now, did we get hit with portal defections?
We lost 2 offensive linemen to the portal.
We did, and those were big losses. But
2 big corners.
It giveth and it taketh, so you can hit the portal back. And listen, I'm taking no less than 5 portal linemen this offseason. Every starting job is up for grabs. I don't care who you are. It's going to come down to the best player, and I'm bringing in as many as I can. And the one area where you and I disagree is that I believe you can turn around a roster very fast in this day and age because of the portal. And I don't think you have to wait. I think if you have the right scheme, I think if you have the right plan, and you can attract players from the portal, you can turn it around quick.
Well, you can bring your players here. We'll use Kerwin Bell, for example. The head coach at Western Carolina, won a national championship at Valdosta State. Has made Western Carolina one of the worst FCS programs out there into a contender, and they have one of the best offenses in the FCS. Now, Clip Brock pointed out when I mentioned Kerwin Bell in the air yesterday, what I hate to tell Kyle, but Western Carolina lost to Furman. Well, Furman's a top 5 team in the FCS.
Exactly.
So you need to follow FCS football a little bit more, folks. So the loss to Furman was essentially like losing to Florida State, for example, or Ohio State or Michigan at this level. So Kerwin Bell, there's a guy who has a high flying offense, who's won a national championship. So let's just say in pretend world we hire Kerwin Bell. He would probably bring his quarterback from Western Carolina and a few receivers and offensive linemen with him. Same with Rich Rod from Jacksonville State. Let's say you hire Rich Rod. Well, he would probably bring quite a few players with him. And that is one situation where Mason Garcia may actually succeed. Would be under Rich Rodriguez.
James just put that up there. You got Garcia and Harris in a spread option. Like Rich Rod, he succeeds big time.
Yeah, I think that would be the one situation where Garcia can be successful. Where you bring in somebody like a Rich Rodriguez. We all know Rich Rod. Look, he won big at West Virginia. He won big at Arizona. He got fired at Arizona for some little scandal. Was nothing that big. And now he's doing a hell of a job at Jacksonville State, which, just moved up from FCS, their first year at FBS, and they're 6-2. 6-2, their first year at FBS. So I'm just saying there's options out there. It doesn't have to be a 5-year project if we make a change at head coach. And look, quite frankly, I hope Mike Houston finds 3-9 to me is the threshold. To me, 3-9 with offensive improvement as the season goes on, I'll say, all right, give him one more year. But then I still won't be very optimistic about him succeeding. But I'll say he earned it because that means we, show significant improvement down the stretch here. But I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, because without significant offensive improvement, we're not going to win 2 games.
Exactly.
Because even though Navy is pretty bad offensively, we saw last year the type of defense they play under Brian Newberry, and that was with a pretty good Pirate offense. And I mean, obviously there are things about that game that are debatable for sure, but yeah, there's no reason to think we're going to score many points in that game or any other game at this point.
The only game I see on our schedule left that I think we may have a realistic chance of winning is Tulsa, because Tulsa seems to be going backwards as the season goes, and it's senior day. And so that's the only one I really see a realistic chance of winning. I mean, without some kind of major offensive improvement. And, the only way I just don't see that happening, because you can't shit offensive line. You can change the play calling all you want. You can't shit offensive linemen and receivers. So even if Raheem Jeter comes in and looks great, we still got problems at receiver and on the O-line.
And the thing is, yesterday we won the turnover battle 2-0. We didn't commit a turnover, and we had the muff punt, and then obviously the pick by Julius Wood, where I was just hoping that he was going to be able to take that to the house so we didn't have to score.
You mean rely on the offense to score? Yeah, no, it's a shame that you almost, you're like, oh God, he only got it to the 15. It's a shame that that's what you think, but that's what you think, because we just can't execute. We had a touchdown pass there, and Garcia missed Jalen Johnson on a rollout that would have been a touchdown. So, and then you doink the field goal. So it's a comedy of errors.
It's a comedy. Let me ask you guys this. Now, would you guys all agree that Charlotte had a very competitive defense on the field yesterday?
Oh, excellent front seven.
Okay. They've also played good against, some teams like Maryland. They took Florida pretty late into the fourth quarter. So they put together a solid defense. Now, 90% of those guys they brought in, like I said earlier, in 3 months. I'm curious to know how much NIL money it took to bring those guys in. I would love to know that, because, and the point I'm trying to make here is that it can be done. It can be done quickly. Yeah. And, I of course, does it help to have a ton of NIL money? Of course it does. But you can be successful in the portal just by going out and recruiting the old-fashioned way. So just a point I wanted to make. I don't know if you guys know how much NIL money they've spent.
No, I don't have a clue. Maybe
can't be much.
No, Charlotte doesn't have a big fan base, so it would have to have been one major donor. But you look at a situation like Isaiah Winstead last year from Toledo. That wasn't because of some big NIL deal. He wanted to get closer to home, and he wanted more exposure to improve his chances of playing in the league. So there are ways to go about getting players out of that portal. NIL definitely helps, and I am all for the more NIL money, the better. And I would encourage everybody to join Team Boneyard, no matter who the head coach is. And,
all right, we got Chuck on the line. Let's see if we can get Chuck on there. Hey, Chuck, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh,
yeah,
perfect.
We got you.
Yeah, man.
What's up, Chuck?
Okay. Hey, what's up? I tweeted Matt yesterday. I don't know if you got the tweet. I think you did. Can you imagine the teams that you played on in the mid-'90s, what they would do to this team right here? I think you commented total destruction. That's just a comment, obviously. But one thing I keep reading on like Boneyard Banner and some of the other websites that if we wait until December, I think right at the end of December, to fire Coach Houston, we can save ourselves $1.4 million. Is that true?
So if we wait
don't
till
know.
the end of December, we can save $1.4 million. I don't see how that would be. I would have to see his contract. But
Is this contract meaning the end of December is another year? Is that what that means?
I still don't.
January?
I still don't see the year still exists. I don't know how that would work. Chuck, did anybody explain that?
It was on actually it was on the I think on the ECU 247 website that
Hoist
I
the
go
colors.
on.
Yeah, hoist the colors.
Yeah, hoist the colors. And if let's say that Coach Houston comes back next year, how many games does he have to win next year? Because next year on our schedule, we don't even play any FBS teams next year. It's FBS teams. It's Power 5 team is what I meant to say.
Correct. We don't play any, you're right. We don't play any Power 5. I think if you don't fire him after 1-11, I really think then the bar has been lowered. So I think 6 games probably keeps his job next year.
Yeah, 6. I was going to say 6-6. So
yep.
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, what do you think will happen at the end of the season? Do you think that he stays or goes? Does Donnie leave?
He's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
Donnie's gone. Period.
Yeah, he's gone.
If
we can all agree on that.
If we go 1-11, me, Matt, and Bubba, all three think Houston's gone. If we go 1-11, I don't think they're going to have any other choice. Dave thinks he's going to stay
for one more year. If he doesn't, what I'm saying is, if we don't, in other words, Donnie's definitely gone. We all 4 of us can agree on that. I think they give Houston one more year, and if he has another bad year, then yes, I'll be the first one to say yes, he goes. Absolutely.
And I say 1-11, he's done. So I think it's Chuck. To answer your question on Mike Houston, I think it's still to be determined. I think it depends on how the rest of the season plays out. But 1-11, the majority of people seem to think will want him fired.
Oh, he's 1-11. He's gone. Gone.
Yeah,
he can't overcome that. I don't think, Chuck, because I think that the fan base will just tune out. I think ticket sales will go in the
crapper.
In the I was going to say in the shitter, but Kyle, thank you. You saved me there. But,
no, I didn't. You still said it.
I said it anyway. But I just don't see how you could survive that.
Just one thing that I don't know if I tuned in late about a half an hour ago, but the other thing, the economic impact on Greenville. If you don't have fans coming to Greenville from like where I'm at in Charlotte and Greenville,
right.
and what's that? The restaurants lose a lot of money.
It's a $2 million. Yeah, Chuck, it's a $2 million impact per game, per home game. I do know that $2 million.
Chuck, let me ask you a question. You're in the Charlotte area?
Yes, I'm in Charlotte.
If we go 1-11 this year and we keep Mike Houston, will you buy season tickets next year?
Hell no, no. I would. Yeah.
So there's.
Now, I would go to the game. I would definitely go to the Charlotte to see the Pirates play, though.
Yeah, it's a short drive. It's a short drive. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about 6 miles away.
Yeah. So there you go, and I think that's going to be the sentiment for most people. That's why I think he can't survive 1-11, and I hope that does. Look, I was one of the people pushing for Mike Houston to get the job. And so I hope he proves me to be right and he turns it around before the season's over. I'm not a double downer. I'm not like the Scotty Montgomery people that couldn't admit he was a bad coach. That ain't me.
Right.
I'm the other way around. If I endorse you and then you disappoint me, I'm more pissed off than ever at you. So I'm not a double downer. And so it'd be interesting to see, Chuck, how many other people share your sentiment that if he stays after 1-11, they won't buy season tickets. And what I would encourage everybody to do, let your thoughts be known, not to the people on the Sports Objective, not to the people on Pirate Radio, not to the people on 94.3, to John Gilbert, to Ryan Robinson. That's the people. I would encourage everybody in Pirate Nation to let your feelings be known to the people in charge. And
one question. What about the offensive line coach? Do we give him his walking papers?
I'll jump
the UNC job.
So,
and I'll hang up and listen.
All right. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate you from Charlotte.
Yeah, appreciate that, Chuck.
just to jump in on the offensive line coach, I've talked to a prominent coach in the NFL recently who has great things to say about our offensive line coach. Somebody that I trust. I've heard really good things.
Somebody that might want our head coaching job?
It's possible someday. I've heard good things in coaching circles about him. I think that he was hired, somewhat late in the process last year, Chuck. I think that, he was probably surprised at how deficient his room was.
Yep.
When he got here. He's probably pulling his hair out right now. So I would definitely give him some time, considering he's only been here for, 7 or 8 months in Greenville.
Yeah.
Based on what I've heard from people I trust, he is supposed to be a very good coach. Now, has it looked pretty? No, it's looked terrible. But I'm
He's
willing
not the
to I'm willing
problem.
to give that some time. I'm willing
Well,
to give that some time.
my thing with that is, Matt, and in that situation, you're obviously talking about if Houston is retained. My thing with that is, it's also gonna be determined on who the OC is. Your blocking scheme. He uses a lot of zone blocking techniques, and your blocking scheme, as you know, you played the game at the Division I level. The OC is going to have a lot to say on who that O-line coach is going to be because the offense he's going to run. So
Sure.
I think if Houston stays, whether the O-line coach stays or not, is going to be determined on who the OC is and if he wants to bring in his own O-line coach. So whether he's the problem or not, even if Houston stays, he still might not be here just because the OC hire.
Very true. That is a totally fair point.
Here's another question. Love Monica, and we'll put her up on the screen. She's asking, is it strength and conditioning? We're getting pushed around and look weak.
Matt, you talk about that. You talked to me about that.
Monica.
I was thinking the same thing yesterday, Monica. Sorry, Matt.
No, not at all, Dave. I mean, Monica, it's a great point. And it's funny you mentioned that because that's something I've been talking about recently, especially on the O-line. I think our defensive line looks strong.
Yep.
Especially in the front seven. I think they look pretty stout. But offensively, we don't look strong up front. We're getting pushed around. We're getting pushed back. The pocket's collapsing. We're not holding our ground. We can't get any movement on people.
Hurts our quarterbacks and running game.
Oh, I mean, there were times yesterday where we barely were able to hand the ball off. And the running back or quarterback is getting blown up in the backfield. And that's because of two reasons. Number one, we're very predictable in what we do offensively. People can see it coming from a mile away. And number two, we're not blocking up front. And so Monica nails it. I think that's a great point.
Well, let me ask you a question about that, though, Matt. Do you think our defense looks well conditioned?
I think our defense has faded in the fourth quarter.
Good point. But they're on the field a lot.
But they're on the field a ton.
Right.
And
that's the biggest problem.
And the thing is, too, like, you got to remember, like, these guys are only human. I don't mean that you personally, but these guys are only human when they're breaking their ass for three quarters and they see that the offense can't manage anything. It takes a toll mentally. It's a mental game out there as well as it is physical. And so I think they sometimes wear down in the fourth quarter.
Well, I guess my question was what I was alluding to. It's the same strength and conditioning coach for both sides of the ball. So if we were poorly conditioned in one area, we should, in theory, be poorly conditioned in all area. Now, is there an aspect to training for strength and conditioning that maybe we don't know how to properly train offensive linemen and other offensive skill position players, strength and conditioning wise versus on defense? Because obviously they're getting the same conditioning.
Well, and I think that's a great question. And there is a difference. There is a significant difference. If you look at the body types of our defensive linemen, a lot of guys who are 6'1", some 6'2", wide chest, shorter arms, guys that can probably bench press a ton, right? Strong. Right. If you look at our body type on the offensive line, taller, very long arm guys, okay? Usually those types of guys are not strong bench pressers because the distance. This is probably getting a little too into it, but the
No, it's
distance
good.
you have to travel when you bench press, when you're a long arm guy, that you have to travel from your chest to the peak of your lift, and a lot of times those guys aren't strong bench pressers just as a result of that. So, I think we have taller, long arm guys that probably aren't very strong in the weight room on the offensive side of the ball. Now, when I say strong, you see guys all over the country, 500-pound bench pressers, 475-pound bench pressers. I don't know what we have on that line from that perspective. I'm guessing we don't have anybody, that's we might have a few guys that are maybe over 400.
Right.
I'd really be curious to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. IGO may have some of those numbers, but it is. It's a whole interesting thought process there with the strength and conditioning. Are we conditioning right for defense, but not right for offense? And I go back again to what you were saying about the offensive lineman. I think a little bit of this talent evaluation. Like I said before, to me, if you have that size and you're not being recruited to play in the SEC, you're probably not that good. And so we'd probably be better off recruiting smaller, more athletic offensive linemen that the kind of guys that Appalachian State are going after, for example.
Well, and Matt, we've talked about, and Kyle and Bubba, we've talked a lot about the transfer portal. We're going to have to hit that. JUCO. I know that Axel. Let's give a shout out to Axel. Axel said that talking about the portal and JUCO, and Kyle, we've talked about that. You and I have talked about that. About why aren't we going after JUCO players when there's got to be some JUCO players out there to help?
Junior college is greatly under recruited.
Yeah.
Period right now. So I think that would be something that we should look at, because the portal, a lot of the Power 5 schools aren't going JUCO very much anymore. I'll tell you a school that's historically awful who's done a really good job recruiting the portal and recruiting JUCO, and they certainly ain't got no money, and that's New Mexico State. But what they do have is a very experienced head coach, and Jerry Keel, and his offensive coordinator, is a very successful Division III head coach. And Tim Beck, not the Tim Beck that's at Coastal. That's a different Tim Beck. And so there's more than one way to skin a cat. Just getting back to it.
And let's see. All right. Elliot asked, if we fire Houston after the season, who would Kyle like to see to take the head coach job?
I have a list of you got to remember, I'm being realistic, and I'm thinking about finances when I'm with this list. Rich Rodriguez would be my first call. He's making $800,000 at Jacksonville State. Kerwin Bells at Western Carolina. He's somebody Bubba's really big on. I've researched him. He won a national championship at Valdosta. He's built Western Carolina, an historically bad FCS program, into one of the best teams in the SoCon, and he has one of the best offenses in the FCS. I mentioned it earlier. Kendall Briles, who's the offensive coordinator at TCU, formerly offensive coordinator at Arkansas, son of Art Briles. Kendall's a guy, because of his last name, who has trouble getting a head coaching job, even though Art Briles has been cleared of all wrongdoing at Baylor. And you would get Art Briles by proxy by getting Kendall Briles. And there's others. I really need to, all of us probably need to have those thoughts of who we'd like to see, but those are the guys that come to mind. And another guy, this would be more of a taking a chance on a guy, but Garrett Riley, things ain't working out at Clemson, and that has a lot to do with Dabo Swinney not working the portal. Dabo has refused to work the portal.
Yep.
And
in fact, James just said that. It's funny, y'all are on the same wave.
Yeah, and I'm not looking at anything he's saying.
I know, that's what's funny.
So Garrett Riley. So me and James have been friends since 2005. Garrett Riley's a guy that, if you want to take a chance on somebody, that Riley name would excite everybody in Greenville.
I would be.
I think Dave Doran might get fired this year at NC State. So Ruffin would be out there. He may be willing to come back and coach on Riley's staff. You want to galvanize a fan base. You put that together. You could really have a fan base excited. So those are
what
some
do you
names.
think about Sean Elliott?
Sean Elliott's a guy that I like, but I think it would take too much money right now. Sean Elliott's 6-1 at Georgia State. He
wanted the job.
Yeah, he wanted the job when we hired Scotty Montgomery
in 2016.
Sean Elliott, his contract is up in 24 at Georgia State. Matt, he makes $900,000 a year. I think at the end of this year, if nobody else hires him away, he's going to get a big raise. They're 6-1. They're probably going to win the Sun Belt. So the thing with Sean Elliott is, I don't think that is somebody. I think he's probably going to get bumped up to that $1.5 million at Georgia State after this year. So that's somebody that we would probably need to pay what we're paying Mike Houston to get. So I don't know that we could hire him right now, but if we could, yeah, I'd definitely be interested in Sean Elliott.
And so he obviously outstanding coach, and just a
lot of time in North Carolina. He was at App State a very long time.
Yep. And it's an interesting. You bring up Garrett Riley, and obviously, like you said, things are not working out great at Clemson right now, but he knows East Carolina. All right, he knows that system has worked here before.
Yep.
It's worked here before.
He was a GA, wasn't he? He was a GA under.
He was a GA, and he was also on Ruff's last staff. He was outside receivers coach.
Yep.
Yeah, he was very young when he first got here,
like 20, 26.
I believe so, and
way young, yeah,
way young. But that is an intriguing mention, just because he knows the recruiting grounds. He's been here. He's had success. So that's something to keep an eye on right there.
And James has one of mine.
And it could go from the dirt raid as it is at Clemson back to the air raid, but also with the emphasis on running the football, like Lincoln and Garrett have progressively done more and more. As you look at it, I'm not sure what the numbers are at USC, but during Lincoln's time in Norman, they were pretty much 50-50 and at times maybe even a little more run heavy, which would probably surprise some people.
Yeah,
you spread them out and you pass the run as opposed to the run to pass.
One more name I want to mention, and then I do want to say my first choice would be Rich Rod, because I think we've never done that, the big name coaching retread in football. And another name I want to mention who would be that is Scott Frost. Scott Frost took UCF to an undefeated season, did great things at UCF, went to Nebraska, and it didn't work out. He's out of coaching for this year. There's no doubt in my mind he would love to get back to a head coaching job, and what better place than back in the American where he had his most success. So Scott Frost would be another guy that would be on my list of realistic candidates.
And guys, here's one a short list. You mentioned last time, Kyle. How about Bill Clark and James? That was one of my short list.
That's it. Yeah, Bill Clark. And I didn't mention him on purpose, James, because I think you guys are going to go after him. But Bill Clark is a guy that he retired from UAB because of back problems. He has spinal fusion surgery, and from what I hear, he's doing much better now. So he's going to be looking to get back into coaching. He's always been to the Deep South. He's never coached outside of Alabama, as a matter of fact, to my knowledge. But in terms of an X's and O's standpoint, Bill Clark is excellent, and his players love him.
And I love your Kyle. I'll give you credit. You've kind of sold me on Rich Rod a little bit. He checks off multiple boxes. Experience. He's a proven winner. He's had success in multiple places.
Yep.
Arizona.
Oddly enough, everywhere but Michigan. He's won everywhere he's been but Michigan.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But what we were talking about earlier about finding a coach that brings a unique style of offense, he also checks that box too. And he brings a
he could win with Mason.
A national name. Yep. So,
yeah, he brings a lot of you hire Rich Rodriguez, it's going to excite the fan base.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, that's what I was saying is if we can get somebody like Rich Rod, I'm a huge fan. And I told you that, Kyle, that you and I agreed about Arizona. That situation was very strange, especially when he's a proven commodity and a great coach, and he was winning at Arizona. So that's what's crazy. It's not like a situation like Bobby Knight where you put up with his antics for many years. He stops.
No, well, it was a situation where it was some allegations with the secretary, but it was really turned out to be mostly unfounded. And so it's a shame he got fired for it. But he's doing well at Jacksonville State. He's 60 years old. So he's not, some people, may be wondering about his age. He's 60. Doesn't look 60. Doesn't look a day over. Probably he looks like he still did when he was at West Virginia, honestly. Yep. So he's a young 60. but you also got to think we would be his last stop.
That's what I was
So
going to say.
you wouldn't have to worry about somebody trying to poach him.
He could be here like 10 years. He could be here
Exactly.
like 10 years, and then at 70, if he retires, well, if we won a championship or two, then
if he's here 10 years, baby, he's done something right.
Yep.
Now,
I don't have a problem. That's a name that Kyle and I. Hey, Matt, that's a name that. Well, pretty much everybody on the list you have.
So
Matt.
you're okay with firing Mike Houston if we can get rid of
I'm just saying that. I'm saying if he is fired, if he's fired, I don't have what choice do I have.
Yeah.
But those names that you've mentioned, every one of them would be fine. I think we'll see.
Did you mention at all? And I realize this is a long shot financially. Did you mention Dan Mullen?
He's one of my Matt. I was going to mention him, but I thought Kyle would say we don't have. I love Dan Mullen. I think he's fantastic, and I would love to have Dan Mullen. I think he would be a great fit here. I really do. He's in my top 5. I definitely think so.
Well, here's the thing about Dan Mullen. One, could we afford him? 2, right now in this situation. 2, a lot of people thought about how much he seemed to love Greenville. Maybe he was fishing for a job. Well, from what I understand, him and Mike Houston are pretty good friends. So I think that was more him trying to help Mike Houston recruit on national TV, putting us over, and he putting Greenville and ECU over so much. But if he's interested, and we can afford him, hell yeah, Dan Mullen's a great coach.
I'm a huge fan. And
he
speaking
did a great
of
job at Mississippi State. He did a great job at Mississippi State.
Quarterback guy.
Definitely a quarterback guy. And there was some questions at Florida about his recruiting towards the end. I think he was just kind of burnt out. He's been away from the game for a couple of years. And, he's a guy from an X's and O's standpoint. Dan Mullen's as good as anybody on coaching offense and developing quarterbacks.
That's something that both Rich Ride, the one thing I can say is that Dan Mullen is if we could get Dan Mullen or Rich Ride, those two off the top of those would be 2 that I really like. And then, obviously Bill Clark. The Garrett Riley one was one I thought about because Clemson is not. They're going to have to do the transfer portal, which I know is going to kill Dabo Swinney, but they don't have much of a choice. He's being stubborn about that, and that's come to bite him.
Another guy, again, it would be an afford thing. Western Kentucky's head coach has been there for about 5 years. He's really good now, and he never quite wins enough to get that Power 5 job. So I think he would be open to leaving Western Kentucky to come to East Carolina. But again, that's going to be, we can pay him more than Western, but if we're buying out Houston, how much more than Western? I think if we're firing Houston, 1.5 is going to be about the max we can pay a head coach. We can get Rich Rod for that, oddly enough, but I don't know that we can get Western Kentucky's head coach for that. I'd have to see what he makes.
What about Dan Mullen? Do you think he would be more in the $2 million range?
I don't know. He depends on how bad he wants to get back into coaching and who else is offering. $1.5 million for a guy who's out of coaching. He's not making that working for ESPN.
And he's got money. It's not like he doesn't have money.
So tons of money.
Yeah, so he may be willing. Also, hey, look, when these 3 years are up, Dan, if you're winning, you're going to get a significant raise. So,
and the one you mentioned that's really another one. I mean, first of all, credit. I mean, you put together a very good list there. Scott Frost is very intriguing. I loved what he did offensively at UCF. Now, things didn't work out at Nebraska. Nebraska is a tough place to win right now.
You can't recruit. It's hard to recruit speed there, and you need speed for his offense.
Correct. And but he's a guy that you could probably get on the cheap, relatively speaking. He's going to want to get back. And the thing I like about when you bring a guy like that, Scott Frost, he feels like he has a lot to prove.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He's going to be hungry to win wherever he goes because of what happened in Nebraska. And sometimes, like, when you have a guy that has a lot to prove and is hungry, that can go a long, long way. Versus, like, you think about, like, Mullen. Does he have anything left to prove?
I think so.
Maybe not. Right.
I think Woody. But you are right about Scott Frost. He would definitely want to redeem himself, and
he's won big time in the American.
Right. Exactly. So that's why I think he would be a good fit. I think potentially. I still go back. If you ask me if I could have any of them, it would probably be Rich Rod. Probably my coaching candidate list in order. Probably be Rich Rod number one, and then my number two. I'd have to really think about it, but Rich Rod would be my number one as we sit here tonight.
I would say 1A and 1B would be Rich Rod and Dan Mullen. Bill Clark.
Kendall Briles would be my number two, actually.
I like the Garrett Riley and Scott Frost. I did think about Garrett Riley. I take that back. I did not think about. That's a great one, Kyle. I'll give you credit on the Scott Frost. That's one that he's a winner. And that Nebraska job is, he's a local guy. I mean, he's one of theirs, but that Nebraska job is a really difficult job. And Matt, when we were growing up, you're closer in age. I know that Kyle and Bubba know the success in Nebraska, but that fan base is so stuck in the past.
I got an interesting idea.
All right. But anyway, I was just going to say Scott Frost is a winner, and I know it didn't work out for him there, but he fits in very well at East Carolina. Another great one. So
let me throw this out to y'all. If Mike Houston does stay,
okay,
there's a guy that's out of coaching right now who I've been told he doesn't want to get back into coaching, but he used to score a lot of points everywhere he was, and there's a place over in Chapel Hill that I'm sure he'd love to get even with. What would you guys think if Houston stays if he could somehow convince Larry Fedora to come in as OC?
Oh my God! I will tell you one thing: Larry Fedora is a great offensive mind, and this is what I say. Everybody's frustrated about the offense. If we can get Larry Fedora, yeah, sign him right now.
He's not doing anything. He's
I have no problem
out of coaching. I wonder if he would come to be OC here. It's just a thought that if Houston does win a couple more games and survives, it's just that's a guy that Mike Houston could go, because he's been a head coach at Southern Miss and at UNC, where you could go, all right, I'm turning the keys to the offense completely over to you. I'm staying out of it. You do what you want to do on that side of the ball. So it's just an idea. I think that's something Houston should look at, because, like I said, he's going to have trouble luring OCs away because of it being a potential lame duck job.
Fedora
is out of coaching.
Fedora has a lot of energy, which is great. At least he did, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible changing wise. We all get older and all, but Fedora would be, I think Fedora, he knows the state of North Carolina. He has connections here. I mean, so James is saying he's done. Well, you know what, James, I agree with you. I didn't know about.
I just think it's
that's interesting. You bring that up, Kyle.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where he may be done, may not want to be a head coach again. Houston could give him a call and say, "Hey, you want to try being OC at East Carolina?" God knows he knows us well. He knows what we're capable of. So I think you give him a call if you're Mike Houston and Mike doesn't get fired. He's somebody that I think that could be an interesting situation.
You know who I'm going to, and it's not a Duke UNC thing, but another guy that I love, he's not going to do it. I love David Cutcliffe. Working with quarterbacks. I know it's not going to happen, but I love Fedora and Cutcliffe. So for me, if we could get David Cutcliffe to come in and work with our quarterbacks and be OC, that's dreaming. I think Fedora is more realistic. I think David is he's working with SEC. Coach Cut is like a special advisor to the commissioner, so I don't think that's going to happen. But those are the kind of guys we need. I will say this, Kyle, if it comes out like I think it will, Houston gets one more year. He's got to have a big name like that, right?
I don't think it has to be a big name. I think that would excite people. I just think he's going to have a tough time getting a sitting FBS offensive coordinator to come here. So he's going to have to hire from the FCS or think outside the box, somebody that's out of coaching like Larry Fedora. And that's, and that's if he survives. And I think that means he wins 2 more games if he survives. And I'm hopeful he can do that.
James is saying go after the Georgia Southern OC.
Yeah, that's another good one, James. But would you leave Georgia Southern to come here, knowing that Houston's on the hot seat? Coach, oh God, what's his name? He was the head coach at USC. This is at Georgia Southern now. His dad was a head coach. His brother's at Western Kentucky. I can't think of his name. Somebody help me out here. I'm dying.
The Georgia Southern coach?
Yeah, James. Bubba and Matt are apparently AWOL right now.
I
James
cannot think of it. I'm drawing a blank.
I know, yeah.
You played against his
Helton?
dad.
Not Helton.
Yes,
Helton.
yes,
Yeah,
Helton.
Clay
Coach
Helton.
Helton. Coach Helton.
I
Why
got it.
would you leave Coach Helton's staff, which is completely secure? Georgia Southern's 5-2. You got a secure job to come here for maybe $100,000 more a year to potentially be fired after a year. So, but yeah, he is somebody that if Houston could get him, I don't think Houston would ever run the air raid though. And that's what that's what
look, man. But that's what I'm saying. That we talk about, and I've talked about it early in the year. That was the part where I was like off the rails with Houston. Is stop being stubborn, and you got to say, hey, look in the mirror. If it's not working, then you got to change what you're doing. So
I think if he stays, he will, but I don't think he'll go that extreme. I just don't see him.
he'll have some wrinkles. No,
I think he'll go. I think he would be more likely to go for something like what Matt is suggesting something more creative, but is still run based. But yeah, the OC at Georgia Southern is an excellent OC. There's no doubt about that. He probably won't be at Georgia Southern next year anyway. He'll probably get a Power 5 offensive coordinator job.
I'll tell you, man, I am warming up. The more I think about Scott Frost.
That's a great one, Matt. Yeah, he went undefeated.
It makes a lot of sense.
He went undefeated, baby.
I would still take Rich Rod over Scott Frost.
I would too, but here,
I'm just saying that. Yeah,
what
that's
I keep coming back to with Frost is that dude has a lot of pride.
Yeah,
he's hungry. He is going to be hungry to coach somewhere,
and he's just in his 40s still.
And guess what?
Exactly, he's still young. He's still
Frost.
young.
Yeah, Frost is young, and with our fan base. That with the recruiting, he could do great jobs with recruiting. I think he's a great recruiter. I really do. And
don't tell the people in Nebraska that.
Well, I know, but the problem with Nebraska is they're living. I mean, Tom Osborne is not the coach anymore.
No, I agree. Look, I suggested Scott Frost, so I'm not speaking against him.
I'm a huge fan of that dude. I've really felt bad for him because I'm like, man, this fan base, like I know that they.
Well, he did have 4 straight. He did have 4 straight losing seasons. So.
No, I know that. I'm not. I understand that. I'm just saying he wasn't. And no offense to him, because he wasn't the right fit, even though he's a
alumni. No, his offense does not work there in 2023.
Right.
No,
correct. So
Matt Roll's the right fit there, and he'll get it. He'll get it. He'll get them as good as they can be. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, but there's those are some good names, and I would be happy. There's not a name on the list you've given that I would be like going, oh my God, like where it's a Montgomery situation. So I won't say that. That was by far the worst hiring job in the history of our
no doubt
of our football program. And I remember, Kyle, you and I were talking about that. When you heard about Montgomery, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that we're going after. We didn't have the people that Confer wanted.
Well, my initial thought was, why are we hiring the dude that won American Idol?
Montgomery?
Yeah, Scotty Montgomery.
Oh,
I didn't even know who he was. Honest to God, I didn't even know who he was.
I knew who he was, but I was just like,
who the hell Scotty Montgomery? And then I realized he was the OC at Duke, and I said, well, that's basically David Cutcliffe's the OC at Duke. So Scotty's just has the job. He doesn't really call the plays. So anyway, that is what it is. That's ancient history.
Yeah, thankfully. All right, do you guys have anything? I know we're after 10 o'clock Eastern here when we're doing this live. Do you guys have anything before we go? Bubba, I don't know if Bubba's still with us, but I wanted to make sure that if he is, he could be able to chime in. Matt, do you have anything?
I feel like I've said it all tonight.
Okay.
Appreciate all the comments.
Great feedback. Yeah, we had a lot of viewers and listeners tonight. A lot of great comments. We do have the best listeners and viewers in the business, and I appreciate them Missed JR tonight. I know JR couldn't make it, but appreciate all he does and a lot of our great people that couldn't make it tonight. Kyle, do you have anything before we go?
No, it's just going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. I think Houston's fate is still to be determined, depending on how the season plays out. I wish I had more optimism than I do that the offense can turn the corner at some point this year. But I don't see it, and so just everybody keep your head up. And basketball season will be here before you know it, and I think we're going to have our best basketball season in a long time. So.
Look at where, the women's team is picked second. Last year they were picked dead last. We were picked the men's dead last. We're picked fifth, the highest we've been. So congratulations. I'm looking forward to it. In fact, by the way, Kyle, you're going to be sitting with me down in the new seats are available, and I got my seat assignments and really excited about that. So we'll talk about that off air. But I hope that you and Jessica and other folks can come and join me this season. It's going to be a lot of fun. And maybe Matt, if you're down, love to have you, bro, down there. The seats are actually a lot better than what we've had in the past. So looking forward to that. And I think our buddy Barry Kearney is going to be down there too, Kyle.
That's good. I'm glad the shareback seats are there, and hopefully everybody's happy with them.
If you're a big guy like all four of us, then these seats are a lot better than. And in fact, that we're near courtside is awesome too. So we'll see how it all plays out. But looking forward to that. You can get your tickets, by the way, before we let you go for basketball. 1-800-DIAL-ECU, or you can go to anytime at ECUPirates.com. All right, a great Pirate football playback brought to you by L&K Custom Homes. Appreciate Kevin KK Walker for all that he does for the program. He's been the title sponsor for the last few years. Appreciate all he did as a Pirate. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you, Bubba and Kyle. We'll get out of here. Until next time, you've been watching and listening to Pirate Football Playback here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody. And as always, go Pirates.
I'm a pirate down to my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to the last whistle blow. For the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let a team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, our time, everyone not copy that. Everybody in the stands go bananas, scream loud, but don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first down, every touchdown with the cannons blast. Get it on, get it all, get the